Greetings and welcome to another Bible study. This time I will be talking about how money and talent without godliness is just a big waste. That's basically what the topic is. Just about how people have things backwards. There's such a focus on obtaining wealth, just getting rich, just getting stuff in mammon. So there's a huge there's a huge push for that in our current world. Okay, yeah. So anyway, we're back. So yeah, there's just a huge push for that in our current world, just to obtain mammon and wealth and stuff in general. And this sermon's about how you should be focusing on those things. So first, I'm going to read out of 1 Timothy chapter 6, verses 5 through 10. That's going to be the main passage for this entire Bible study, this entire sermon. So 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 5, all the way to verse 10. Perverse disputings of men of corrupt minds and destitute of the truth, supposing that gain is godliness, from such withdraw thyself. But godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain that we can carry nothing out. And having food and raiment, let us be therewith content. But they that will be rich fall into temptation and a snare, and into many foolish and hurtful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition. For the love of money is the root of all evil, which, while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith, and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. Okay, so that's the main passage for all of this. Everything I'm going to say is in those verses. So first, let's break this up into a couple sections. I have about 4 main points. I have 4 main points here. My first point is that any gains that you obtain in the world are temporary. Everything's temporary. That's my first point. My second point is that some of these things that you gain, this wealth, it's hurtful and foolish. It actually hurts you. You think it's going to help you, but it actually hurts you. My third point is that it can cause a loss of faith. If you just try to run after money all the time, it could take you away from the Lord. And it'll just give you a complete loss of faith, because you stop trusting in the Lord, you start trusting in yourself. And my fourth point is going to be that what is actually great gain? Great gain is godliness with contentment. So that's actually right. Godliness with contentment. So what is it? Yeah, verse 6. That's the main point there. Is that godliness with contentment is great gain. That's really what you want. You want godliness with contentment, not this material wealth, but you're godly first, and then you're content, and then you will be happy. So anyway, those are my 4 main points there. So let's see. First, so as I was saying, like a life that you live for yourself, it's going to be, like a selfish life for yourself. It's going to be void, meaningless, pointless. And it sounds logical, like you're going to make decisions in life that are going to seem logical to you at the time, but you will realize that you're just unhappy at the end of it, because just living for yourself is not going to make you happy. It seems logical, but it's not. It doesn't work. Plenty of people have tried it. It doesn't work. You just end up feeling a void in your life. Even a lot of non-Christians will tell you that. It just ends up feeling this void in their life, just being selfish. Anything you gain, any happiness you obtain is just temporary. It's just stuff, possessions. It's just temporary. It's all going to burn. It's all going to vanish. You're going to die one day, and you're not going to take any of that with you. Yeah. So I mean, you're just going to be sorrowful at the end of your life. So anyway, that's my introduction. Um, now let's see. Let's get on to the first point. Verses. So my first point is going to be that gains are temporary. So I'm going to read that out of verses 5 and 7. So let's see. What do we have here? So perverse disputings of men of corrupt minds and destitute of the truth, supposing that gain is godliness, from such withdraw thyself. So um, you don't. So it says from such withdraw thyself. So you don't want to be around people with bad habits, with bad forms of thinking. If you're around all of these like people that are wealthy and are just trying to obtain wealth and trying to become rich, you're going to start thinking like them. Whoever you surround yourself with, whoever your friends are, that is who you're going to become like. If you're around wicked people, that wickedness is going to impact you. You are going to become like the people around you. That's what's going to happen. So it says from such withdraw thyself, and so the Bible warns you. The Bible warns you to not to start thinking like these people. Perverse disputings of men of corrupt minds. Plenty of that going on in this country right now. I mean, it's been going on for 50, 60 years. Perverse disputings of men of corrupt minds. There, so much of it. Like you could just go on and on. So many examples of that. And destitute of the truth. Yep, plenty of that. A lot of people don't know the truth. Supposing that gain is godliness. It's not. Gain is not godliness. And so unfortunately, this idea that gain is godliness, um, I mean, this isn't even like non-Christians. Like we're talking about Christians. Like you have this prosperity gospel thing going on that I think it's been running around in some of the Pentecostal charismatic circles, where it's like, you name it and claim it. God's gonna bless you. Every day's a Friday. That kind of thing, right? And the American dream. Living the American dream, and it's like you forget. It's like you just try to become wealthy. Like the point of life is to have this be prosperous and wealthy. And I'm like, when did God ever promise that? God never promised that in the Bible ever. That the Christian life is to be wealthy and prosperous. If you look at his prophets, like God's men who he sent out, how many of them were wealthy? Literally none of them. You had some kings. You had King David. You had King Solomon. So yeah, the kings, they probably had some wealth, but uh, generally his actual prophets, the ones he had go out, and preach and witness and all that, they were never wealthy. They were doing God's work. They were hard workers, and they were always doing stuff. But and God gave them what they needed. He gave them food. He gave them raiment, and that was it. He never promised them wealth. If you saw Apostle Paul today, by the modern mentality of Christians, a lot of them would think, they would not understand that Apostle Paul is blessed. They would not understand how blessed Apostle Paul is. They would think he's just some loser, homeless hobo. That's what they would say when they see Apostle Paul, that they would not recognize God's power, God's spirit upon Paul. They would miss that. They would not see Apostle Paul as the man that he really is. They would just think he's some loser homeless person. So this is how people are judged. This is how Christians are judged. So if someone is going through a lot of persecution in life, they're going through a lot of troubles and tribulations, it's like, well, God must be teaching you a lesson, or you must have done something wrong. Like, no, not necessarily. It's just a trial from God. And if everything's going great in your life and you're not getting persecuted or punished by God, then that doesn't necessarily mean you're being holy or spiritual either. Could be that you're running away from everything. You're running away from trouble. You're not really serving the Lord, and that's why everything's going great for you. You're just running away. And God's like, okay, you want to be some rich, wealthy person? Okay, I'll let you. I will give you the opportunity to become this rich, wealthy person that you want to be. And it doesn't mean you're spiritual. And so there's this deception. There's deception. Wealth means prosperity. Yeah, it means that you earned. You're wealthy. Great. That you could do stuff. You could serve the Lord with your wealth. You could do something with that money. You could tithe more than most people. You could fund projects that the average person would be able to fund. That's how you could serve the Lord with that. But a lot of these people don't. You know, you're just gonna use it. You're just gonna use it for yourself. So just know, like, this doesn't. Appearances are very deceiving. Appearances are extremely deceiving. You can't judge things on the surface level, and that's how people judge things. There's this name it and claim it philosophy, ideas, it's psychology, a lot of modern Christianity, what people think and do. It's not even biblical. It really isn't. It's just something they read out of a psychology book. Yeah, it's just warped. A lot of people's minds are just warped. They don't even know how to hear God's voice anymore or have proper discernment. So that's why you need to keep your head in the book. You need to keep your eyes on the Lord, in the book, prayed up, and ask the Lord for truth and discernment and to see things the way they really need to be seen. Then you'll be on the right path, because it's so easy to get deceived these days. You talk to people and you realize just how much how much deception, they've had their mind warped because they've been around the wrong people. And the wrong people includes Christians, includes churches that they should have left a long time ago, that have been teaching them the wrong things. So yeah. So anyway, the point there was that job and status don't make you. Actually, that's going to be one of my main points here. Job and status do not make you a better person. They don't. Plenty of degenerate people are wealthy. Millionaires, billionaires, they're not better people. Sometimes they work hard. Sometimes they work hard and they put an effort to get that. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're a better person. They could still be selfish and narcissistic and all of that. Likewise, just because you're poor also doesn't mean you're a good person. Just plenty of poor people are also awful people and narcissists and all of that. So wealth and status, you can't really judge people by that. You can't judge. It says nothing about their character. If they're wealthy, then yeah, maybe they're hard workers, which is true. According to data, I will say that is an actual fact. A lot of entrepreneurs that became millionaires did put in a lot of hard work. They didn't inherit money. They actually put in effort. So a lot of rich people, you could make the argument, actually do deserve their wealth. But that still doesn't necessarily make them better people. They could just be jerks at the same time. They're hardworking jerks, So just know, job and status don't say anything. They really don't. So just you need to focus on the Lord. Gain is not godliness. Gain is not godliness. Never confuse those two. And it's very easy to be deceived like that, because we are naturally drawn to people that are more successful. You want to hang around with people that are doing better, because if you surround yourself with with people that are doing well and wealthy, then maybe some of that will pass on to you, right? So it's kind of natural. Most people are gonna gravitate towards that. And if you surround yourself with people that are not doing well, then then it's not going to help you move forward in life, right? And that's what people think. They're always thinking about, like, how do I progress in life? How do I get more? So it's very easy to fall into these traps. Very easy. It's very tempting to judge people differently based on their wealth and their money, but that's incorrect. Biblically, you should judge all people equally. So just keep that in mind. Anyway, so yeah, I actually got kind of a little off topic there, but so the point is that gain does not necessarily make you a better person, and also that gain and that wealth that you accumulate in your life, it's going to vanish and burn anyway. You're going to die one day. You can get an almost infinite amount of wealth, or just ridiculous amount of it, but your life, your time, is still finite, and you actually don't know how much you have, right? You don't actually know when your last day is going to be. probability-wise, you'll probably live up to about 80 or so, you know, probability-wise, but it's not guaranteed. Your day could come sooner. So you know, what you want to be storing up is treasure for eternity, because that's a good investment. You want to invest into eternity, because that investment isn't going to get corrupt. It's not going to fall, you know, it's not going to break apart. Any investment you make on earth for physical wealth or pleasure for your flesh or whatever, any of that, it's just temporary. It's going to evaporate. So, and also, and if you just make a life of just being a hedon, just a hedonistic life, just you know, self-focused on yourself, um, it's not going to, like, it's just temporary. So like one illustration I can bring up for this, I remember it's actually from economics class, my high school economics class. I thought it was a brilliant illustration. It's the concept of diminishing marginal returns. It sounds like a pretty big, you know, a pretty big concept, but it's an important concept in economics. And so the way it was illustrated, which I think is great, it's like he said, my teacher said, well, what if you drink a can of Mountain Dew? And like, I personally don't like Mountain Dew, but let's assume you actually like Mountain Dew. You know, like, let's assume I actually like Mountain Dew. So you drink your first can of Mountain Dew, and on a scale of 1 to 10, you can give this can a utility. So let's say it's an 8. So this first can, I like it, I enjoy it. It's an 8 out of 10. This first can is an 8 out of 10. Then I'm like, let's drink a second can. Okay, let's drink a second can. So you drink a second can of Mountain Dew. This second can, you're like, yeah, it's still pretty good, but not as good. Let's give it a 5, a 5. So it's not, you're still getting, you know, some enjoyment out of it, some dopamine, some caffeine, but it's not as good. The first can that was the good one. Second can's just not quite as good. Then you drink a third can. The third can, it's like, whatever, like a 2. It's like it's kind of good, but I don't really care at this point. 3, and then so then you're like, oh, I'm gonna keep drinking. I want another one. So then you drink a fourth can of Mountain Dew, and your fourth can of Mountain Dew. Okay, now you're getting sick. So at this point, it's actually negative. You have negative utility out of this fourth can of Mountain Dew because you're actually getting sick now. So it's like negative, like -2 or -3. And then you're like, for some odd reason, even though you feel sick after this can of Mountain Dew, you want to keep drinking Mountain Dew. So you drink a 5th can of Mountain Dew. So you drink this 5th can of Mountain Dew, and then you just get sick and you just puke. Like that's what the 5th can of Mountain Dew did. So the 5th can of Mountain Dew is like -10 or something. Like it's awful. So you've just completely, you turned something good, this can of Mountain Dew that you enjoyed, and it made you sick. So something good that started off good ended up making you sick at the end because you overdid it. You weren't supposed to drink that much Mountain Dew. Now, this illustration just works for like literally a lot of things in life. Basically, sin. This is an illustration of sin. This is what sin does to you. It seems great at the time. You get lots of utility out of this sin. It's enjoyable. You get pleasure out of this sin. And eventually it's not fun anymore. You just get sick. You're addicted and you just get sick. And the only reason you're still doing it is because you are addicted to this sin. And that right there is an illustration of sin. It's this diminishing marginal utility. It's less enjoyable as you do more of it. And even something good that's not a sin could eventually turn bad and make you sick. Like even drinking water, you can kill yourself by drinking too much water. Water is a good thing, but there's still a limit to how much water you should drink. You drink too much, you could actually drown your lungs in water, and that has happened before to people. So something good could still kill you. So it's even more true if it's something bad or what already. So this just explains like how something like this is how people think. They think this is enjoyable. I'm going to do this. This is going to make me happy. And then they realize it doesn't. That's what people think about alcohol. They think alcohol is going to make me happy. And then sometime later, it ruins their lives. Same thing with smoking, same thing with drugs. You're hurting yourself. These things are damaging. So people just do it to get a dopamine rush, to feel more alive, to feel happy. So they do things that they think are gonna make them happy, but they don't. These things ruin their lives. So you need to focus on joy. You need to look on good things that give you permanent happiness and joy, not these temporary fleshly pleasures that are just gonna go away anyway. Because and it's easier said than done. Some people are addicted to things, and it's very hard to quit once you become addicted to sin. And there's so much of that going on, and so many people's minds have been warped. We got the internet, you got social media addiction, you got, all the other addictions I mentioned. Alcohol, smoking, drugs, pornography, like just the list just goes on. Like it just because the mind's all messed up, especially with the youth. And all of these things are bad, and this is all stuff everybody knows by now. Even non-Christians are talking about this stuff, how this is damaging our society. It's not just the Christians bringing up all of this stuff, but I explain all these things from a biblical perspective. That it's already written in the Bible. All of this stuff has already been common sense. It's already been written in the Bible that you should avoid these things. You should avoid these evils. So gain is not godliness. All of this wealth that you think will make you happy, it might not. It probably won't. If it makes you happy, it's still going to be temporary. It's gonna disappear. You want to focus on eternal things. Okay, I'm back. So I'd like to read I'd like to read one more passage actually out of Genesis 13:10. Wait, let's do that. Yeah, Genesis chapter 13, verse 10. This is to illustrate this point. Genesis 13:10. And Lot lifted up his eyes and beheld all the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere, before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, even as the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, as thou comest unto Zoar. And beheld all the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere, before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So right there, it's actually giving you a prophecy. Like it's telling you, like, yeah, Sodom and Gomorrah, are going to get destroyed. And at the time, Lot doesn't know that. Lot just looks and says, just to give you some background information to the story, in case you aren't aware, but Abraham and Lot, they were going to go separate paths. And Abraham told Lot, you can go this direction or you can go that direction. Your choice. You pick where you pick. I'm going to go the other direction. We're going to split up here. And so Abraham gave Lot first pick. He let him choose where he wanted to go. So Lot looked over. He looked there. He looked there. He looked at the land that looked the nicest. So Sodom and Gomorrah looked like a good place to live at the time. Like in hindsight, we obviously know that was a really bad place to live. Sodom and Gomorrah was not a good place to live, but it looked nice. It looked nice. San Francisco looks like a nice city. It's a city full of sin, but it looks nice. It's in a good location, right? So it's just because a city looks nice and maybe has good weather sometimes, it's not mean it's a good place to live. So those are some of the most wicked places on the planet, really. So I think Sodom and Gomorrah, San Francisco, Sodom and Gomorrah, like you could definitely see a lot of parallels there about the lifestyle of those cities. So Sodom and Gomorrah, it looks like a nice place to live. Lot's like, yeah, I think I'm going to go there. So Lot chose the land that looked the nicest because he was judging by appearances. He wasn't thinking. He wasn't using discernment. He wasn't reading between the lines. Wasn't asking God for assistance in making those decisions. He just said, like, yeah, it looks nice. So he just judged it on surface level, and he just went there. And Abraham's like, okay, I'll take the other one. So So Abraham took the land that looked worse, but as we know, he ended up doing quite well there. And Lot ended up completely losing his entire family practically. Everything was a mess. And even though he made a lot of bad decisions in life, chose the wrong path, God still, for Abraham's sake, tried to help Lot out and tried to get Lot out of the city. And Lot practically lost his entire family um, he had his two daughters left, and they were you can obviously see the kind of education they got, which was not very good. They got the Sodom and Gomorrah public school education. Uh, you know, so if you read the story, you know what happened. So just because something looks good, looks like the logical decision, it might not be the right decision. You need to ask the Lord, because if you're just gonna judge something by appearances, what you see physically, that's not always telling you the whole story. There's something hidden. You know, if something looks really nice, it looks too good to be true. It might be too good to be true. There might be some hidden secret, some hidden wickedness and evil behind the scenes that you're not aware of. So you always you have to look out for that stuff. Appearances are deceiving. So this is Lot, and he ended up losing everything, and he made a decision that looked good at the time. So if you just live your life like that, just making decisions based on the physical, like just what you can see, and not reading, not asking the Lord for assistance and guidance in making those decisions, you can lose a lot in your life if you make decisions like that. Like I think another really good example is Jacob. If you look at Jacob's life, now Jacob was blessed by the Lord. You know, he did get the birthright and all that, but if you look at Jacob's life, he made a lot of mistakes. Jacob quite often went with the flesh. He made very fleshly decisions, a lot of very selfish decisions. He was not asking the Lord for help most of the time. He just did whatever he felt like sounded good at the time, and we can see where that ended up with. He ended up like really having to work really hard and causing himself a lot of trouble. He ended up with having a he wanted Rachel, ended up getting Leah, and then ended up getting a bunch of he just ended up in a huge mess, like really. And um he was always in the flood, like he was yeah, I mean, Jacob is a good example of a Christian, saved, knows the Bible, goes to church, but just doesn't really live out the stuff he's supposed to be living out. Yeah, he just kind of like, well, whenever it comes time to make an important decision, he just quickly gets in the flesh, like immediately. Like he doesn't even ask the Lord for assistance. He does what he wants first, and then he asks the Lord for assistance or the Lord to bless it, instead of going to the Lord first and saying like, hey, guide me through this. And I think eventually by the end of his life, maybe Jacob learned his lesson, but it did take a long time. And in like, I forget exactly what passage it says, but Jacob specifically said about his life. His life was kind of long. It was like 100 something. And he said that his days were few and evil. Few. He lived over 100 years, but he called that few, and he called it evil. He called his days evil. Few and evil. And that's how some people live. They have their lives, the days they have are few and evil, because they're so focused on the flesh. They're so focused on getting what they want and making decisions that sound logical to them, and instead of getting the Lord's help. So that is what's important, is to follow the Lord. Or you will end up at the end of your life like Jacob, regretting a lot of the decisions you've made, and you will be calling your days few and evil, and you will wonder where my time went. Where did my days go? What did I spend my life on? And you will feel like you wasted your whole life. And that's how Jacob felt. So Jacob is a type of the Christian that stands before God at the judgment seat of Christ with, I mean, probably not a lot of rewards, you know, someone that just wasted and squandered the talents that God gave them. So let's see. Yeah, I think I'll end it there. That's my first point, that gains are temporary. So I'm going to continue next time. I think this will be 1 or 2 more videos, but on this topic of money and talent without godliness is a great loss. So yeah, stay tuned for that. I have plenty more to talk about. So, till next time.